And we are live with another episode of Comic Talk. It's that show brought to you by The Keeg, where we talk about this week's new comic book releases. For those of you who don't know, new DC Comics, for now at least, come out every Tuesday. New Marvel and Indie Comics come out on Wednesday, and we're here on a Thursday, June 20th, 2024, to talk about everything that we read. Not just me, your host, Dimithri Perera, but we also got special guests, one of which is not here.
Me,
but
Virgo Blade.
One of which is here.
Nice to meet
we
y'all.
got Ethan.
Ready to talk some comics. It's actually been a really good week for comics.
Sorry, did our wires get crossed? Are things delayed? Ethan, you good? Oh. We'll probably have to we'll do the intro again, maybe? I don't know. Ethan, you good?
Oh, yeah. I'm back.
Okay.
I guess that was my Wi-Fi.
I think it was the internet connection. Okay. Assuming, let's see. Okay, yeah. Let me, we got Ethan, Virgo Blade.
What up?
Ethan, how's it going, man?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing okay. It's been, wild times.
Yes. Very wild.
Our second guest, you've never been on the show with, it's Brian, Captain Comic Rex. He's not here yet, but we're doing the show without him, and we'll see if he's able to make it today. But if not, no sweat, because we've both read a good amount of comics, and I'm really interested to hear what struck a chord with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, this was a pretty good week for comics overall. One especially made me very happy, so I can't wait to talk about that because it was dope, but we'll get to that when it is time.
Awesome. Brian actually just messaged me that he's on his way. And it's funny in a digital world where it's like I'm running late to log in, as opposed to like I'm on the freeway right now. Pull it into the parking lot.
Yes. Yeah, that's the motto.
When he gets here, we'll be able to talk about what he read. But what did you read? Because I'm still prepping images and everything for everything. But what did you read?
Okay, cool. Yeah, I read Wonder Woman issue number 10, Batman Superman World's Finest issue number 28, Batman issue number 149. This was a banger. This one was it.
Yes.
And then The Amazing Spider-Man issue number 52. Those are my pick. Oh, also, was it Blood Pact? No, Blood
Hunt?
Blood Pact.
Was it a
Blood Hunt number 4?
Which?
Yes.
Oh, but that was last week.
Okay. Well, I'm catching up on Blood Hunt because you mentioned it the last time that we talked.
Yeah.
And so I actually read the last 3 issues of Blood Hunt.
Okay. I mean, yeah. I've been really liking Blood Hunt. I don't know how have you been feeling?
I like it. I do like it. Mm-hmm. I think I like it mainly because of the characters involved, not necessarily the story itself. I kind of have some caveats with the story, not like anything major, but I'm not pulled into it as much as I would like. But I mean, I love Blade. I love Captain America, Sam Wilson. I love Miles Morales, and I like their involvement in this story. And also the dialogue is actually very impressive. The one thing that I wish that it had was that it just a deeper meaning of the vampires. I almost feel like this would have been better as a Midnight Suns special event thing versus just a whole bunch of MCU characters who don't necessarily have a connection to these vampires. Okay, look, I'm just an overly deep person and I need to find the meaning in everything.
Yeah.
And so I'm just not seeing kind of the deeper meaning of the vampires. What does that mean to Scarlet Witch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple of different fronts on this, and I gotta say that I have been happy with the tie-ins for this. Now, there is a Midnight Suns Blood Hunt miniseries.
Okay.
And so that's been cool, but at the same time, you're right. What does it matter if for Black Panther and Blood Hunt and whatnot.
Mhm.
But what I've been noticing and is that they've been doing a really good job, whether some of the Blood Hunt series tie in with Blade and those characters' relationships with Blade, some of the Blood Hunt tie-ins just have like, oh, slash them up kind of thing. Like Wolverine Blood Hunt is just like, let's see Wolverine just slash up vampires. But then you get like Black Panther, where it ties in with the history of Wakanda and their relationship to the first vampire or this one demon. I don't know if it's the first vampire, but like Bast and Khonshu come in that series. So like they've been really kind of diversifying the idea of what a vampire story is, which I think has been really cool.
Okay, so maybe I should pick and choose which minis to check out, because that actually sounds interesting.
Yeah, because I mean, like Dracula's one has to do with bloodline and Blade's daughter, right? And so, like, they've been doing a pretty good job of like diversifying what kind of story it is, instead of just being like, oh, this is just a story where like there's just a vampire horde and your hero, your titular hero, fights a vampire horde, and it's all the same stories.
Okay, dope.
By the way, I want to introduce Brian, Captain Comic Rex. Brian, you made it.
I did, by the skin of my teeth. Just barely. Hello, everyone.
Hey, how are you?
Good to see you.
You as well.
Ethan and Brian have never been on an episode together.
No, we have not. Pleasure to meet you.
Nice meeting you as well.
Brian was one of the first Comic Talk guests. And in fact, he's like Agent in Reverse. He's Benjamin Buttoning it, because anyone watching the live stream on Twitch or YouTube can see that Brian doesn't have his big old beard.
Yeah. I got a haircut today. I got a beard trim today. So
for this show?
Yes, for this show specifically. No, it's just summertime. I gotta shave it off a little bit and let the head breathe a little, because it's getting too hot.
You're Benjamin Buttoning it. That's what it is.
Well, now you see why I have to grow out the beard, so I don't get mistaken for one of my high school students.
Yeah. I didn't know you have such a baby face.
I know. Here it is.
Well, all right, good for you. Now I can see you a little bit better, and I know a little bit more about you. Brian, real quick, for everybody out there, what did you read this week?
Oh boy. Well, I read Blood Hunt Dracula. I heard you guys talking about that. Blood Hunt, good. Big fan of Blood Hunt.
Yeah.
I read Immortal Thor number 12. I read Ultimate Spider-Man number 6. I read Helen of Windhorn number 3. I read World's Finest number 28. I read Amazing Spider-Man number 52. I read Scrooge McDuck and the Infinity Dime. And I read Destro number 1. That was my reading list for this week.
Very interesting. And also a lot of overlap between, Ethan, Brian, and I. So, like, I like that. There are books that only we read, of course. But then there are books that, like, we share with each other. So I'm still prepping all the images, but what did I read? If you must know. I read, let's see, look at this. Amazing Spider-Man 52, Batman 149, Black Panther Blood Hunt 2, Batman Superman World's Finest 28, Destro 1, Doctor Strange 16, what is it? Invincible Iron Man 19, Nightwing 115, Sensational She-Hulk 9, Titans 12, Ultimate Spider-Man 6, Uncle Scrooge and the Infinity Dime 1. I would have kept it for the weekend, but like I saw it on your list and I was like, all right, I guess I'll read it before then. And then Wolverine Blood Hunt 2.
Good list. Also forgot to mention Nightwing as well. That was on my list as well.
Yeah. I'm interested. What and I'm still setting all these images up, but it'll catch up at some point. Do you guys know your pick of the week?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
Ethan, you go first.
Yeah, Ethan, you go first.
Okay, yeah. So mine is Batman 149.
No,
I feel like
mine was Batman 149, and you changed it. Okay, that's fine. You can take it. You can take it. I'll pick it.
yeah, I mean,
tomorrow.
to be honest, I kind of felt like that was your choice, so I wanted
Yeah.
to go first.
Oh, all right, all right. You
Come
beat
Because
me
I
on.
to
don't
it.
really, I don't really have a second because this was so dope. Like, so I almost feel like this moment was like in the making for Chip Zdarsky because I feel like he does really good with like smaller stories, like personal moments, and this really shined. This felt like the setup for a new set status quo for like Batman and the Bat family following Failsafe and Batman Zur and R. I was very happy with it in terms of just like what the new normal is going to be going forward. Not sure how much I like want to spoil, but just like in terms of like his base of operations, stuff with like Wayne Enterprises, and then also like it was surprisingly emotional with Robin, Zur, and R, which I didn't expect. I
Yeah.
kind of felt like a jerk in a way because I was like, oh, like Robin, Zur, and R is going to be this very dope like villain, and he's going to like fight Robin. I was thinking very just like comic book guy, and not like, oh no, this is the clone of Bruce Wayne, and like Bruce like even like calling him son because he's like that connected to like his family now that immediately he's going to embrace him and he has such a short time on this earth. I was like, I wasn't emotionally prepared to deal with that particular story, but that's what made it so great was because it surprised me. So I can't say enough nice things about that issue of Batman. I was very impressed.
I I agree. I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. I think that it's kind of a new status quo in a way. It's funny because, well, first thing, Brian, are you reading Batman?
Yeah, I actually forgot to mention that I did end up reading it. I have the DC Universe Infinite Ultimate whatever subscription where I get the books a month later. So I've been reading Batman there. But after hearing you both sing the praises of this issue in particular, I made sure to jump ahead and catch up on this week's issue. And yeah, I'm echoing everything Ethan said there. I thought it was a really phenomenal issue. I think people have been a little bit critical of this run lately, but I also think that this issue really speaks to why you sometimes have to wait to judge a story before you really, say was the story good or bad when you're reading it in monthly installments. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Often I think people jump to conclusions when they're on part three of like a 4, 5, 6 part story. And I also think that people misinterpret things that are going on too. I feel like Dimitri, a couple months ago we talked about
How dare
people
you?
being
What are you
like,
gonna say? What are you gonna say? What are you
I feel like
calling
a
me
couple
out
months
for?
ago we
Fight,
were
fight.
talking about people saying like, why is Bruce acting so out of character in this story?
Yeah.
And I think you and I were like, because Zur-En-Arr is influencing him. Like I feel like that's pretty explicit in the story. And the last 2 issues really drove that point home, I think, as clearly as possible. So I think there's a tendency that people have to jump to a conclusion about a story rather than letting the writer play it out and bring it to its ending. And I think this issue really shows why sometimes you got to let the payoff happen before you judge whether or not you like something.
So
Agreed.
yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you. I do think, and this is something that I've learned recently, is like the writers are work for hire, right? Like writers on comics, like they don't own the properties that they're writing on these
Right.
big, the big two, the DC and Marvel stuff. They don't own these properties. They're hired to tell a story, and sometimes to prolong their story, sometimes to delay their story. I wouldn't be surprised if like Chip Zdarsky's knowing Chip Zdarsky and how he writes amazingly, I wouldn't be surprised that when it was slow, it's editorial telling him, slow it down. You need to push this out,
Yeah.
especially with Absolute Power coming out.
Yeah.
Like this storyline, he didn't have to do that whole hopping. Remember that arc where he was hopping through the multiverse?
Right.
Yes.
I did not like it at all. And I just think that was just like wasting time. And I think there's a lot of times with Batman, because DC's never going to do a crossover event and not include Batman. Batman's always in a crossover event, which means whoever's writing Batman at the time has to say loosey-goosey, right? They have to be like, sure, I have 12 issues worth of amazing ideas, but you need me to prolong the final arc So,
And I'm
like,
curious to know when editorial wanted to incorporate this new villain, Failsafe, into this big crossover, because Failsafe is an integral part of that. So I'm curious, to your point of like, was it delayed in part because they were like, wait, if you're got to get Failsafe to this point and he's got to be a keystone of this crossover, you're maybe going to have to slow things down for a month or two in order for us to get all the dominoes lined up.
yeah, I feel like Failsafe was like introduced in Zdarsky's first thing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. The very first arc was Failsafe.
yeah, and so like, but it wasn't Zuranar until like an arc later, right? And then they
Right.
met essentially. They like kind of crossed over a little bit, and so cool, awesome. I was like, I've been a big proponent of like compassionate Batman. I've always been, you know. I think literally since at the very latest, the episode of Justice League Unlimited where he sits with Ace in the swing. And ever since then, I was like, that's the Batman. Like, you know, I love Batman Year One, but Batman Year One also has compassionate moments and like Long Halloween and like Batman. Some of Batman's greatest hits aren't his actual hits. That's a pun, right? Like punching hits, right? You know? Like, and so like Batman, this whole arc, I've been disappointed with Chip Zdarsky. Finally, with this issue, through tears, because I messaged you guys and I said I was crying because of this issue. Like, I realized like it paid off. It's paying off. I don't know.
I think it is, and I think so much of what this arc has been about, you know, going back to what you said about they don't own these characters, is Chip Zdarsky kind of like pushing the idea of Batman aging about as far as he can, or as I think as DC will allow him to, right? Like the Batman who is recognizing that he's maybe getting a little, like, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like DC is now pushing the idea of like Batman being 40. I don't know if that's kind of the vibe you guys have gotten, but it feels like that's where DC editorial is kind of envisioning him now.
Yeah.
And a lot of this arc was very much Batman being like, I'm not a young man anymore. I am like slowing down a little bit. My body has taken on a toll. And I feel like this story where he literally confronts an aging version of himself, a version of him that's super aging because it's a clone, he has to really confront his mortality in a literal way and look at this idea of, wow, this is who I could grow up to be, and this is the eventual end I will find myself at. And he has to really like embrace that and accept that in order to, you know, move on from this point he's been at over the last couple arcs.
Yeah, I definitely felt that. And also like I felt like it paralleled Superman's journey in terms of just like his aging when it comes to like War World, and like him like talking to John Kent and just being like basically saying that if something were to happen to me, you are to take up the mantle. And of course, we all know it's like not like gonna happen. But in the context of the story, like it just kind of gives this landmark of like where they are in terms of their age, but then also their kind of like mental state and like what they're thinking, like, and you know how much that they've actually been through. And I personally love stuff like that because it shows how much wear and tear that they've had throughout the years, and it makes it feel like the passage of time is actually occurring, even though we know that comic books are stasis. But it just adds that layer of gravity to these stories and makes moments like when he's dealing with his clone of himself and facing his own mortality and seeing him go through these stages and then having to bury him, which felt very much like almost like burying a literal version of himself, of like an old version of himself to like begin anew. And with it being like at Wayne Manor and then going to Pennyworth Manor, which I also like love that. This sounds morbid, but like love that they kept Alfred dead, just because like I just feel like we need to have stakes in stories and not just like, oh, he's dead, but he'll come back next month because, you know, he has a comic book. And also like we get to see Pennyworth in other stories as well. But it just feels like when they do stuff like that and they make it more prominent, it just has more weight to it. And so I think that him aging, he does definitely feel like he's more in his 40s, which makes sense. Like the Bat family has so many years on them. They've been through so much that it only makes sense for him to actually age and not stay perpetually the same age.
Yes, absolutely.
Something was mentioned in a Marvel comic that I read this week that like mentions the passage of time, and so like just generally speaking is like to longtime readers, the passage of time makes it so that like all our time spent reading comics wasn't in vain. That like when you're an X-Men fan and you are like, Kitty was a kid, the New Mutants were kids, now they're in their 20s, like that to me is like, okay, like sure they aged slower, but we grew up together as opposed to not growing up at all, right?
Totally.
And so like Batman being in his 40s, I mean, I definitely think that Batman's 40 at least, and I think he needs to be, because also the age of heroes, everything that has happened in DC Comics couldn't have been in the last 10 years. Like it needs to be more, it needs to be longer, and Dick Grayson, depending on how old he was when he started being Robin, because that's sometimes debated depending on continuity, right? He's not 8 or 9, right? When he starts being Robin,
he's maybe at most 13.
He's to me, he's preteen. That's fine.
Yeah. He's like 13, maybe.
Yeah,
at the young,
at the oldest, I think.
Yeah,
he's 13. He's like 11, 12, or 13, right? Like, but he's not 8 or 9. Batman doesn't have an 8-year-old fighting crime. So like, let's just say Dick was 13, and now to me he's in his late 20s. He's 27. He's 27, 28, 29. To me that's 12 years, right? And that's 12 years just for Robin. So, and that's being conservative in a way. So maybe the age of heroes is 15 years.
Well, you also have to take into account Damian's age. If Damian is 12 or 13.
But they put him in a tank, like he was grown in a tank, and they mention it, right? In this issue, they're like, you're not. Why did they do that? Just give him a natural birth. Like, it's because of the inability to age Batman is a problem.
Right. I'm trying to, but I don't think he was like aged up to age 13 in a tank. I think he was like created in a tank as a little baby, and then they took him out of said tank, and then he aged naturally from there. I think that was always the implication.
I think they aged him to a certain point, but he's not I mean, he was 9 or something. How old was he when he in Son of the Bat or Son of the Demon or whatever it was?
I think he's probably 11 or 12. He's young. He's very young.
But he's only 13 now. He just got into high school.
Yeah, so he's probably 15 at most.
Yeah, 15.
15, 16, 17, 18, or 14. But yeah, okay. But still, like you join high school when you're 14, right?
Right. But I'm saying if he aged naturally from however he was conceived, which can vary depending on who you ask.
I am a big proponent of Bruce Wayne was not assaulted.
Yeah, no, I'm a proponent of that one too.
You know, DC editorial has been so weird in the past since DC started with like the idea that like Batman doesn't have sex or Batman doesn't like fall in love or whatever. Like it's like, no, he had sex with Talia and he was in love with Talia. Damian is a child born out of love to me.
No, I agree with 100%. And I think they've done a lot to kind of rehabilitate the image of the Al Ghul family over the last 5 to 10 years, especially in that. Was it Joshua Williamson who wrote that Robin series that came out somewhat recently? And I think that does a really good job of being like, let's kind of fix some of the ickier aspects of the family dynamics here. Yeah. And I think that is a good place to leave them at going forward. But yeah, I think that this was a thing I've said a million times, but like when the New 52 started and everything more or less got reset, but Batman still had basically all of his sidekicks. It's like, how did all of these Robins exist within a 5-year time span? It doesn't make any sense. Like, you cannot have the full Bat family in the way that they do and say Batman's only been Batman for like 5 years. He has to have been Batman for 10 to 15 years or more if he's got this many sidekicks running around. It just doesn't make any sense otherwise.
I mean, the same thing that doesn't make any sense to me is although I love House of X, Powers of X over at Marvel with X-Men, they essentially say that like X-Men have been around for 10 years, and like, no, they haven't.
No. That's another one where you're kind of like, you got a headcanon how much time makes the most sense to you for those characters rather than go with the sliding time scale. Otherwise, it's going to break your brain.
There was something that popped up in Invincible Iron Man this week that I might as well, it's not my pick of the week, but I might as well just like touch on it.
Yeah,
so Invincible Iron Man is coming off the tails of Fall of X, but it's not Fall of X, because Fall of X is over. Kind of. Did any of you guys read it?
No. I'm a little behind because I'm reading it on Unlimited, so I'm a couple months behind.
Okay, so in this, it wasn't technically a Fall of X book, but it does take place before the fall of Orcus. So there is essentially a big, like, kind of gross tumor soldier fight thing that Orcus had when they like activated like the thing, and they were like, eh. Anyway, point being is, it was a really good issue. Again, it's not my pick of the week, but like essentially Rhodey was like, Tony, like, I've been in jail for your ass. And Tony's like, yeah, but I'm like, I've been doing something. It's not like I've been on vacation. He's like, you've literally been ice skating with Emma Frost. Like, you've gotten married and you spent, like, while I've been in prison. He's like, all right. And then like, he's like that. And then like Rhodey punches him and he's like, is that good? And he's like, no, but we'll get there. So at the end of this, essentially, Rhodey says he'll this issue they hire a bunch of villains from the Bar with No Name, and it's villains that are like on the edge. So like they're like, look, you ever wanted to like shoot Start Tech like machinery and like fight on the side of good? We'll pay you. Come on out. So they kind of create this little villain army. Anyway, at the end of this, Rhodey's like, I'm gonna start my own Avengers, and like we're gonna do like second chance Avengers, essentially.
Oh,
which I'm very interested in, as long as they pull it off. I like the recent thing about Marvel that they've been doing this whole like redeemable villain thing, that like sometimes people are a product of their environments and they're not necessarily evil. Like the Rhino is in this, and the Rhino's not evil. Like, you know, he's done some bad stuff, but like he's not evil. He's not Green Goblin. Anyway, the point being is, what was a funny joke in this that like is alluding to a time period. Rhodey is in his like old War Machine armor, and he walks out with this like high top fade, and they mentioned that there's a protocol in the suit called the Freshen Up Protocol, where it gives you a haircut. And he says, oh, this is the old armor back when Arsenio was king of late night. But that's late 80s.
That's a really long time ago.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that
time scale is.
Tony's been Iron Man since the 80s?
Right.
So I don't know how.
Well, I guess,
unless it's a joke.
Also, you can tell me if I'm wrong because you know Marvel more than I. Unless they have like a different like sliding scale of like when like Arsenio was on, perhaps his.
I love that. That means I love the idea that all of history has a sliding time scale.
Yes, it's not Fantastic Four. It's Arsenio Hall. I've been trying to tell you.
Arsenio Hall was king of late night. What in like
the 2000s?
Yeah, in the 2000s. Yeah. Okay.
Not Jay Leno. Not David Letterman.
Oh,
it was
funny.
Arsenio.
Yeah. Like
that's so funny. I love that idea. No, I think that's going. We should headcanon it as now.
Yeah.
I mean that's the only way. Out of the three of us, I think Ethan's posting the most to TikTok. So I wouldn't be surprised if Ethan, if you want to take that ball and run with it.
I just might actually.
It was a really good comic, and it just made me wonder about the time period. And there was another comic that also mentioned something time period wise, and I forget what it was, but something else from this week did. Anyway, point being is whatever. That was Invincible Iron Man 19. I think there's one more issue either before this run ends or before it's a new like kind of refresh or whatever. Brian, what was your pick of the week?
Oh, well, Dimitri, it's been the end of the school year this week. Life has been like a hurricane. I would even go as far as to say it's been a duck blur, which is why I feel like my pick of the week is Uncle Scrooge and the Infinity Dime, because it's got things that I love in it, Dimitri. It's got Scrooge McDuck. It's got Jason Aaron writing some multiverse nonsense.
Yeah.
It's got the power of family and friendship and love of adventure saving the day. I also will admit my bias here. I've been watching the DuckTales cartoon with my son. He loves
new one
it.
Or the old one?
The new one, which is fantastic. I really enjoy it. But I also, it is also very cool because the people who did the artwork for this issue are the artists who do the Italian Disney comics. So Disney publishes these comics in Italy on a pretty regular basis that feature primarily the duck characters. So they actually brought them over and had them do the artwork for this. So I think the artwork is pretty spectacular in it. And I'm also just a big fan of the Carl Barks, Don Rosa, Scrooge McDuck comics. Those comics are hugely influential and I think severely underrated. More people should know about them. More people should check them out. Anime and manga, as we know it today, was strongly influenced by Carl Barks' Duck comics. Fun fact. So if you like your Jujutsu Kaisen, you can thank Donald Duck for that. Just remember that.
Ethan, if there's something you need to know about Brian, he's a hipster.
Okay. Good to know.
I'm fine with this.
But you're not a hater though, Brian. And so like when you're a hipster, you're just trying to spread the love of some random ass shit. So you're not hating on other things, but you're.
I just need people to understand it's all connected. This war of like what's better, manga or American comics, it's all symbiotic, man. It's all one art form. It's a beautiful thing.
The theory of everything.
Yes, exactly.
Ethan, did you read this one?
I did not, but now I want to.
It's a fun book. I read this one. Okay, so my history with this sort of thing. So like, yeah, I love Disney. I love DuckTales and Darkwing Duck, and I grew up on that 90s kind of Disney cartoon kind of thing. Interestingly enough though, so my dad growing up in Sri Lanka, like he didn't have DC and Marvel comics. Like those weren't big in like British colony countries. DC and Marvel, like American influence, it's British influence or European influence over American influence, at least back in the 60s and 70s when he was growing up. And so my dad was a big fan of Tintin, Asterix, and Disney comics, and Archie, actually. So I guess American influence in that respect, but like it's not DC and Marvel, right? And so, like, my dad used to talk a lot about Disney comics, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, we don't have it here. And so I learned later that, like, yeah, I mean, America, for some reason, Disney comics never popped off, but, like, Africa, Asia, like, Europe, like, Disney comics are huge, and, like, Donald Duck had his ongoing stuff, right? Am I correct, Brian?
Yeah. Donald Duck has a whole superhero persona that only appears in Italian Disney comics. It's like a whole separate continuity of just
but
Europeans.
It's not just Italian made, right? Like they.
Yeah. No, it's like just was appeared in the Italian comics.
But then they're translated into other languages.
I think they're translated to other places, but they never really show up in America.
No, not America.
Yeah.
Because we have pure undiluted Disney in a way. So like with our lands and our worlds and our cartoons and whatnot. But like in Sri Lanka, Disney comics were big. Anyway, the point being is that like this was me being like, this might be the first or like one of the only times I've ever read like a Disney comic like this.
I feel like, because I know you grew up reading Tintin, I feel like you'd really like the Scrooge McDuck stuff. Because the Scrooge McDuck stuff is very like Tintin vibes, like adventure story.
I love Tintin.
World traveling. Yeah. I think you would like the Scrooge McDuck stuff then. Steven Spielberg is on record as saying the scene that opens Raiders of the Lost Ark with a big boulder was inspired by a Scrooge McDuck comic. So like these are hugely like influential things. They're very like adventure oriented and things like that. Yeah. So I feel like you would enjoy those comics quite a bit if you like Tintin or any of those other types of adventure world globe trotting type of stories.
I need a new Tintin movie. That's just a side note. I'm very, very upset because the first movie was great.
So good.
And their deal was that Spielberg would do one and Peter Jackson would produce it, and then that the next time around Peter Jackson would direct it, Spielberg would produce it.
Well, there was
That's
an
what I heard,
interview with
right?
Andy Serkis like this past week where he was like, "Yeah, Jackson's still working on it," and I'm like, "Don't give me hope. Don't give me hope like this. I need that movie."
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a big comic book fan, but there are like some rando comics that like I'm in love with more even.
Sure.
You know? By the way, shout out to the line of Animorphs graphic novels that just started a couple years ago, and they've been releasing them once a year, starting from the first Animorphs book, and then now they're doing 2 a year. So
I'll have to check those out. Sounds good.
Yeah, because Animorphs was one of the first books I've ever read. Like, it was like Goosebumps and Animorphs.
Yeah.
So I have to check out the graphic novels.
Well, I saw that they're doing graphic novel adaptations of the Goosebumps books too. I think the first one, Haunted Mask, comes out this year, and they got a good writer and artist on it. I'm blanking on their name at the moment, but they've done some cool they're an indie artist, and I've seen some like horror books that they've done before, so they're a good pick for it. But yeah, I should check that out. It sounds really good.
Literal adaptation of the first Animorphs book, the Animorphs book. So it's the graphic novel, and I got it in hardcover, but like, it's really good.
That's dope. I didn't even know that they were doing that.
Yeah. So there's 4 books, and the 5th one the 4th one came out earlier this year. The 5th one comes out later this year. I think.
Are they adapting it like 1-to-1, or are they adapting like multiple books in each volume?
Yeah, but they're moving so slow because the books were like 50. I think there was like 52 books plus side stories and spin-offs and prequels and whatnot. And so like Animorphs is my first love. I mean, Tintin and Animorphs are like me when I was a kid. And you know. Anyway.
Mine was Animorphs, Goosebumps, and Hardy Boys. I love the Hardy Boys mystery.
My dad grew up with Hardy Boys, so he kept being like, "Oh, do you ever read Hardy Boys?" And as a kid, I was like, "No, but I guess I could. I could search for them."
Yeah.
So I read a couple, and I was like, "All right, that's fine."
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll give my final thought on that. And then if you want to do your pick of the week, Dimithri, I definitely think if anybody's like curious about it or grew up on either version of the DuckTales cartoon, you should definitely check it out, because you not only get the new story, you get as a backup story the first appearance of Scrooge McDuck from the Donald Duck comics, and that story kind of plays into this multiverse spanning Scrooge McDuck story that's the main book. And I also kind of just want people to support it because I love the Scrooge comics, but they are not easily available. A lot of the ways that you'd have to read them in America is you have to buy the like nice Fantagraphic hardcovers, which are great, but like if you're an elementary school kid, like you're not going to get an almost $50 hardcover of a Scrooge McDuck book. I'd like them to provide more of this material at a cheaper rate for kids to check out, and maybe do more new stories. I think that would be cool. So yeah. Scrooge McDuck, go get it. It's good.
By the way, I just noticed your bookshelf in the back and how they're slanted, so that's really bugging me. So please.
What do you mean they're
like on the bottom shelf, or like that third shelf from the top? Like your books are falling down, right?
Oh well, look, I gotta reorganize it. I don't know what to tell you.
Look, I'm
working on it. I'm working on it.
When you're busy. When you're on the show, Brian, just be better. You know.
I don't know if that's better or worse, actually, now that I'm...
I didn't know it went up that high.
Yeah.
What?
Like a library.
Suddenly it doubled in shelves.
Yeah. I don't know if that's better or worse if I tilt it upward.
Mad respect. Okay,
you can forgive me for having a slightly disorganized lower third there.
You gotta get the book stoppers things, you know?
I know. Well, we'll work on that later.
We'll figure it out.
What's your pick of the week, Dimithri?
All right. So I'm going to do my pick of the week, and then we got to rush through everything else we've read. Okay? So which means short reviews. My pick of the week then is, I was going to pick Sensational She-Hulk because I love that book, but I'm not. I'm going to pick Ultimate Spider-Man 6.
Oh.
I like this issue. Did anyone else read it?
Yeah,
No,
I read it.
Okay.
I was going to, but I decided to hold off. But go on.
They're kind of the last couple issues. They like kind of did like a little prequel, like they did a little flashback. They did like some side stuff, and it was like, okay, but where's the rest of the story? So now we're kind of back on the main story, and essentially Peter Parker like comes downstairs in the morning to his family, and his face is just bloodied and bruised, and he has to tell his family that he's well, he doesn't have a name, like he doesn't have the Spider-Man title. He's like, oh, I've been a superhero or whatever, but like he doesn't have a title yet, and so then it flashes back to him and Green Goblin trying to just like curb stomp Kingpin. Problem is, Kingpin got enhancements since like the first issue or whatever, and so Kingpin is just beating both of them up. They're probably like vibranium enhancements or something, but they're like tattoo looking, and so like he's enhanced now, and he's just beating them up. And like it was a good issue, but I really like that part. But I also like Peter dealing with his family and Mary Jane being like, I'm not mad at you for keeping the secret. I'm kind of proud of you. I just wish I had known, you know? Which I like that. Basically, they're steering away from the angst. I love it. I love it when you expect there to be just dumb CW angst. And then they pull the rug away. They're like, no, we're not going down that route. We're just going to be open with our secret. And we're going to solve the problem. And, like, the plot from here on isn't about this weird secret that he's keeping for his family. It's like, what else can we come up with, you know? So,
That sounds good, actually.
Yeah.
Because it's always...
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ethan.
Oh, sorry. It's always annoying to me when people, like, get upset when someone has this like deep dark secret, and there's obvious reasons why they kept it from them, and they just are so selfish with it. And that just always, like, I get that it's a trope, and especially in superhero comic books, but I just feel like in this day and age we can kind of like go back to it and do something else. So that's cool that they did that there.
And Mary Jane names him
Spider-Man.
Yeah, I like the idea that his daughter is the one who designed the costume and MJ is the one who gives him the name.
Somebody online said his son has to do something.
Yes, yeah. Maybe his son will say, with great power comes great responsibility. But no, I like this idea that the family dynamic is becoming so prominent, that they are working together with him to continue his career as Spider-Man. I mean, that's kind of what the big central hook of this book has been from the jump, right? That it's like in a universe where Peter Parker has been allowed to grow up, speaking of Batman growing up, and has this family around him that he, you know, nearly had in main continuity, but editorially was removed. Yeah, it's a different dynamic. I think the thing that has surprised me the most, and I'm kind of the most interested in seeing going forward, is the dynamic he has with Harry. Because they are being presented as like partners in this war against the Kingpin, and I'm curious to see if that's gonna break bad at some point, or if the dynamic will be a little bit different from what we're expecting based on previous continuities.
I mean, there's a moment where Harry was like, I got the information out of an informant, and then Peter's like, what? Because I think he like tortured somebody, right? So like, so I feel like there's either a split coming, or Jonathan Hickman is just taking us down this route of like, maybe they won't stop being friends. Like this idea that like, oh, two guys differing on their philosophies are going to become good guy and bad guy. But like, maybe we won't go down that route, you know?
Right.
So,
I mean, they have similar goals. So I'm curious to see like if the split does happen, what drives it. And in the meantime, though, I'm just enjoying the ride. It's been a very good book.
I'm excited for the new Sinister Six that's coming out. I forget the lineup, but I saw Mole Man.
Dude, when I saw Mole Man,
yeah,
I love that so much.
And then Felicia Hardy's father.
Yes.
And then
I'm also like, I saw that and I was like, why have we not been getting years of stories of Spider-Man fighting Mole Man? I feel like Spider-Man versus Mole Man makes total sense. He lives under New York City. Have Spider-Man fight some giant monsters every couple months. I love that idea. Why have we not been doing this the whole time?
I don't know. By the way, the Ultimate Sinister Six is Mole Man, Black Cat, the male Black Cat, Felicia Hardy's father, Craven, Mysterio, Kingpin, and Mr. Negative.
You love to see it.
I'm cool. I'm cool with it.
What's been your favorite of these Ultimate books, Dimitri? Is it this one or
this one? I don't think that having this amazing series makes up for me not liking the rest of the Marvel Ultimate Marvel stuff.
You don't like any of them?
Okay, so I like Ultimate Black Panther to a lesser extent of this, but I like both of them, Black Panther and Spider-Man. I don't like Ultimate X-Men whatsoever. And I don't like the Ultimates.
What? It's only had one issue.
Yeah. I don't like the lineup of the Ultimates. I think it's boring. I think it's basic.
Wow.
I think that their lineup, the lineup of the Ultimates team is literally Avengers plus Doom plus Sif. Like, I don't care. And we're talking like early Avengers. We're talking all white team. Like, okay.
Wow.
And it's not the fact that these characters are white. It's just that they're the most uninteresting lineup.
No, I get what you mean. Don't worry.
Like an Avengers lineup that doesn't have Black Panther is almost lost to me. Sam Wilson, like, I like the Avengers lineup now and where they're heading.
Yeah, Avengers lineup now is solid.
Because they're going to put Storm on the team, and in the recent She-Hulk, they essentially were trying to recruit She-Hulk.
You don't like Ultimate X-Men, though? Ultimate X-Men's been so good.
No, it's not Ultimate X-Men to me. It's Ultimate Armor. Like, okay, cool. It's just false advertising.
Wow. This is a lot to unpack. We'll have to discuss this another time.
You haven't been here, Brian. You don't know who I am anymore.
I don't. I truly
You've been gone
don't.
for so long.
Yeah, this is a very touchy subject, but I love hearing him talk about it because there's so much vitriol that it's very entertaining.
Here's the thing. My thing is that, like, here's a question
Don't
for both.
this, Ethan.
The question for both of you guys is, if we can equate the pilot, like a TV show as a pilot episode to sell us on a concept, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is the first issue of a new comic series the pilot episode, or is the first arc a pilot episode?
I like the first issue.
I would say first issue.
So that was not a good pilot for Ultimate X-Men #1.
But I think the Ultimates premise is so interesting that it's like an inversion of the original Ultimates, where it's like the original, they were the government, they were cops. And I like the idea that in this one, they're now like essentially underground revolutionaries. I think that's really clever to be like, what if we totally flipped it on its head? What they are! They get called terrorists.
They should call the team Ultimate White Power.
Oh wow, that's crazy. That's crazy.
It's like a 7-person squad.
This is entertaining to me.
I will say the writer did acknowledge, because somebody brought up a similar criticism on Twitter, and he was like, I recognize what you're saying, and he was like, there will be more people being added. So I don't know.
I'm sure.
I don't know if that necessarily addresses your criticism perfectly, but the writer did acknowledge that. So
that's not the only thing. I'm also poking fun.
It's just the main thing.
I just because I'm not excited by the book. I read the first issue and I didn't like Ultimate Invasion. So like,
wow.
I don't care about Reed.
Okay.
Reed being Doom.
Well, the Ultimates I think is the one most tied to the plot of this Ultimate universe. So I get where.
And I'm not a fan, but Ultimate Spider-Man stands alone. Ultimate Black Panther has been good too.
I like Ultimate Black Panther. I think it's solid.
Ultimate Black Panther could have just been a Black Panther book. Like, very similar kind of stuff to 616. Ultimate Spider-Man also could
dynamics with Storm and Killmonger that they're
yeah. I know, but like, continuity would be off. But what I'm trying to say is like, the fundamentals of the storyline could exist.
You could give that to someone who only has seen the movies, and they'd be like, "Cool, this is like what I like about this character in this universe."
Yeah, and so like, and Ultimate Spider-Man, all it is just like make Peter Parker older and give him a family. Like you could do that in the 616, and like,
sure.
that's an easy enough thing. It's pretty much the same. Ultimate X-Men is nothing like X-Men. Like, I can't.
But that's, I think, why it's exciting and like cool, is that it's like, this is so radically different. They're trying something really unique, and they're slowly introducing all these really interesting characters. And when they come together as the X-Men, it's going to be cool. Dimithri.
I'm running out of time, Brian, telling you that you're wrong. So.
I thought you meant like in life. I was like, are you sick? What do you mean?
No, I'm running out of time for this episode because I'm spending it all on telling you you're wrong. Here's the thing about Ultimate X-Men, the new Ultimate X-Men, is that the original Ultimate X-Men, we saw the full team plus I think the villains in the first issue. It said say what you want about the Ultimate Universe, but for me, I like the Ultimate Universe up until Ultimatum. And like the Ultimate X-Men books, I did love. It was like one of my first comics that I read monthly.
No, I enjoyed it quite a bit too, but I appreciate what a breath of fresh air this is and how different this is. Peach Momoko's art, I think, is stellar. Like I like it so much because it is doing something very different, and I find the story that it is telling to be compelling. I can see what you're saying about like maybe if it wasn't called Ultimate X-Men, yeah, sure, but I also feel like I don't know if that's a name that sells, unfortunately. And like, this is the reality of the comics market. You got to sell it.
If you told me this was called Ultimate Runaways, I would accept this comic.
Sure.
You know? All right. We're going to hit everything that we can in the next, 10, 15 minutes. Who read Amazing Spider-Man 52?
I did.
Do you guys feel like these new issues are redeeming a little bit of like getting back to basics, or is it still bad? Or
I have always been team the Zed Wells run is good, actually, with the exception of Miss Marvel getting killed. I think that's the only thing that I really didn't like it. But what I loved about this issue is the way all of the plot threads, all of the like little characters and beats have been getting slowly brought together from this entire run. And I think this run is good, and I think that some people who complain about on the internet are babies. And when the next writer, God help them, takes over, I'm sure everybody's going to be like, wow, we had a great with Zeb Wells, blah, blah, blah. Because they're already doing that with Nick Spencer. If you look at the comments on people being on the recent announcement that the Zeb Wells run is ending, they're like, they should bring back Nick Spencer. It's like, you guys hated Nick Spencer when he was writing it too. So what are we doing? What do we say?
I mean,
so that's my...
I do think that like Zeb Wells is good, but his editorial, I think, gets in the way of these bigger characters, especially. So, and with big crossover events and whatnot, editorial gets in the way. Like, I have problems with this run, but it is what it is. Ethan, you got thoughts?
I'm good with it. I've been very interested in where it's going. I love the design for Spider Goblin. Like, it's just a very kind of cool concept. I like the intro with Kraven the Hunter. Like, because it felt like just the right amount of it, not that he was like taking away from the actual story. So personally, I've been happy with this arc.
Yeah, I'm cool with this arc. I think there's some interesting things kind of coming together. So, all right. Batman Superman World's Finest number 28. I liked this one. This was close to being my pick of the week. Like,
yeah, I really like this one better than the previous issue. Like, I don't know, like things worked in this one that I don't think worked in the previous one. Like, I like where they went with Jimmy Olsen and kind of like taking his like everybody's pal type of thing to the next level. Also like going through the different dimensions, because I'm just a huge fan of Grant Morrison's Justice League run. That kind of went into like the 5th dimension, and then Scott Snyder's went into the 6th dimension. And then also there was like a brief kind of cameo of like a future with Failsafe, and then like a scene of like War World as well. And like I enjoy that too, because like Batman Superman is this throwback kind of origin book. So to connect it to like future continuity was just a very smart move that made it feel connected.
Yeah, because it is technically a prequel, which is weird.
Yeah.
But it's like an updated prequel, which like World's Finest Teen Titans was like the same thing. And like it's like, okay, they have social media when the Titans are younger. So when does it take place? But all right.
Talk about sliding timelines.
Yeah. It's fine. I'm not going to get too much on it. I don't like fifth dimensional imps or sixth dimensional imps. I don't normally like them, but no, sparingly. You get sparingly. Brian, you haven't been here, dude. Like,
the takes are out of control tonight. The takes are out of control.
So my take before we move on is all these like Justice League little mites, right? The little imps version of them. They are like chibi versions. There was a multiverse where there were like baby versions of the Justice League. I don't know if you remember this. Like one of the worlds is like a baby chibi version. Like Harvey Dent has a pie on half his face. Like it's not scarred. He just had a pie thrown at him, and it's half pie. Like it's like X Babies, right? It's like X Babies over in Marvel, but with the in this. Batmite is not a chibi version of Batman, and Mr. Mxyzptlk is not a chibi version of Superman. Why are the rest of the like Batmite is a super fan, and Mr. Mxyzptlk is a super nuisance. So like it just doesn't make sense to do this weird chibi fan club.
You're hung up on them all cosplaying as the Justice League. What it is?
Kind of like we need rules here. You know?
Yeah,
anyway,
well, we need to understand their personalities better because right now they're just dressed up.
They're just fodder, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's whatever. But though I am a fan of this issue, they go through a lot. They explain more. That's kind of what I want. It's like, for something so sixth dimensional or fifth dimensional or whatever, we still need rules. Mxyzptlk, when he says his name backwards, he pops back, right? Like, we know those are the rules. Jimmy uses it in this issue. So... Yes. If Jimmy did it and it didn't work, then that would have to be a plot point that needs explaining, not something that's like brushed over. Anyway, I like this one. I thought it was cool. I really like the art and I like the explanations a lot. And the weird Mojo looking guy, because he kind of reminds me of Mojo from X-Men. I don't know what his whole thing is, but I like Jimmy Olsen's characterization in this. I like Dick Grayson's characterization. Dick does not know how to say Mxyzptlk. And like, I love it. It's just this running joke. And I love it. So
his one weakness.
Yeah. It's you know, it is what it is. All right, moving on. Dracula Blood Hunt, number 2. I know, Ethan, you read that one?
Not the Dracula, no.
Okay.
I did.
You did. Okay.
Cool and good. I'll just echo what you said earlier, which is I'm enjoying the structure of the Blood Hunt tie-ins as well, Dimitri. You described as kind of like some of them are more directly connected to Blade, and some of them are kind of just like, let's have this person fight vampires. And I've enjoyed that quite a bit because I really liked Danny Lore's writing on the previous Blood Hunt or Blood Line, series. So I'm excited to see them coming back to write more of the character. I've liked it quite a bit.
Okay. All right. Nightwing 115. I know Ethan read that one.
Yeah, this was a very solid issue. Nightwing was very heroic at the charity fundraiser. I liked it. It felt real in terms of how he's trying to get everybody out to safety. It was just a genuinely strong issue. I don't think it was the greatest issue ever, but there's really nothing to complain about for me personally.
I thought it was a good setup, and it did keep me at the edge of my seat. Just everything that was going on with him being drugged and then the mask being on him. Like, this was like some cinematic, you know, kind of stuff. And I'm here for it.
Yeah. And I like that I didn't see the end coming. That was like it's always enjoyable when something kind of surprises you.
Yeah. Yeah. You read Wonder Woman 10, right?
I did. I have a lot of thoughts, but I'll make it concise because I know we're like running out of time. Yeah. Okay, what I liked. I actually liked the Wonder Woman and Cheetah fight, like in their relationship, and even how they compared it to, like, it's not Superman versus Lex or Batman versus Joker. They're adversaries, but they kind of represent each other's opposites. And that's not really who they are. It's like Wonder Woman and Cheetah are very similar. And that's why they clash the way that they do. It was a bit reductive, but also true at the same time. I liked less the Wonder Girl story, and that's really why I was very excited for this issue, was because I wanted to see Cassandra Sandsmark, Donna Troy, and Yara. But their characterizations were kind of off to me. I don't know, like there was this scene where they're going into the invisible jet, and they're kind of like playing it up for laughs. and they don't know how to like operate it. And Donna Troy hits the ejector button and she flies up. And Yara makes this joke about like not knowing if Donna Troy knows how to fly. And I'm just like, and Wonder Girl acts like she doesn't know. And I'm like, is there, I don't know, something in the New 52 that I missed? Because I'm like, stopped reading it. But I'm just like, Donna Troy can fly. They mentioned like Cassandra having like a fear of heights. I'm like, but she's flown before. She flew in Young Justice, actually. So the characterizations of the Wonder Girls threw me off. But aside from that, the art was amazing, as always, by Daniel Sampere.
Donna and Cassie can fly. I don't know if Yara can fly. Can Yara fly?
She uses that horse, that flying horse. So I think that's how she flies.
Okay.
This is a thing, because I'm an issue behind on that because I'm reading on the app. This is a thing that sometimes ruffles my feathers about Tom King when he's writing DC characters. Is I feel, well, I guess it's not his fault. I feel like editorial doesn't tell him, hey, this isn't how you're supposed to write it. Like, I don't like that his Wonder Woman doesn't speak with contractions. I'm like, Wonder Woman uses contractions. I don't understand why she's talking so properly in this book all of a sudden, when I'm pretty sure in Justice League, like 2 months ago, she was like using regular English. I don't know. It's just a weird thing. And I feel like no one has the courage to be like, hey, Tom King, you don't have to write her this way. You can do different things with her.
Not using contractions is like such a basic writing trope. Like, how do we tell this person is a little detached from society? I cannot. I do not. I will not go to the grocery store.
That is not how it is done in Themyscira.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, she doesn't talk like that. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, you could maybe like write Martian Manhunter that way, but I'm like, no, she uses contractions. What's happening?
Yeah. Real quick, we gotta go through Helen of Windhorn 3. Brian, you read that one.
Oh,
right?
yes. Now here's a Tom King book I am enjoying. This one's good as hell. It's a little bit Conan the Barbarian, a little bit Alice in Wonderland, and Bill Cleverly's art is just stunning. So if that all sounds good, go read it. It's good as hell.
Awesome. Let's see. Immortal Thor number 12.
Oh, Dimitri, I know you don't like this book because you don't like to read, but
no, that's not what I said.
The shade that's being thrown.
Yeah. When did I? No,
you said Al Ewing uses too many words. That's what you said.
Did I say? I don't know whether I ever said that. Somebody roll back.
No, you don't. This is the opposite thing. Remember how I was like Wonder Woman should use contractions?
Yeah.
I think that Thor should never use contractions and should always speak faux Shakespeare. And you don't like when he speaks faux Shakespeare. That was the disagreement.
I'm okay with faux Shakespeare to an extent. What I have told you is I don't like the old Thor comics. I just don't find them interesting. I think when they updated Thor and they made him like more contemporary, I like Thor better. Like Broxton, Oklahoma, was that what it was?
Yes.
Like that whole stuff, like cool. Yeah, I like Thor that way, you know? But like, yeah. I'm just not a fan of the. Is it Walt Simonson?
No, it's Al Ewing.
No. In the olden days?
Jack Kirby and Stan Lee?
No, after that?
There's a lot of guys who we talking about.
Anyway, whatever. Anyway, point being is we'll move on. I'm just saying Thor for me has to be done in a specific way, I guess. TMNT Untold Destiny of the Foot Clan.
Hey, did you guys know Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics are crazy?
Yeah, I've heard like there's like mutant towns and stuff, right?
Because over the last year, I've been getting more into Ninja Turtles. I'm doing a temporal pincer movement where I'm reading from the beginning of the run and like the current stuff simultaneously.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know what the Ninja Turtles deal is. They got splashed by ooze and they became mutants. And then in like the second or third volume, they were like, actually, they're reincarnated spirits of a man and his 4 sons, and that's Splinter and the 4 Ninja Turtles.
In like feudal Japan, right?
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know anything about Ninja Turtles. This is the craziest shit I've ever read in my life. And that's kind of what this book is about. It's like all the weird magic history of the Foot Clan, and like Casey Jones and Bebop and Rocksteady are teamed up with Shredder's daughter, and they're the new Foot Clan. It's nuts. It's good stuff though. I really like it.
Sounds intense, and I kind of want to read it now.
Yeah.
Well, Jason Aaron is starting a new run of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes.
And so that's the hop on.
Which is off to a promising start. I liked that alpha issue they did earlier this month.
Real quick
Cool,
then,
cool.
Uncanny Valley number 3, Brian. I think that was on
I
your
didn't get a
list.
chance to read that, unfortunately.
Oh.
So
I just was looking at the cover, and it seems to me it's very like Looney Tunes satirical in a way.
Yes.
There's like some sort of, what's the premise? At
the premise is a kid finds out that his grandfather is Yosemite Sam.
Is Yosemite
That's
Sam?
basically the premise. He lives in the real world, and he finds out that he's essentially like part toon. And because of that, you remember in Space Jam when Michael Jordan unlocks Looney Tunes powers?
Yeah.
That's basically what's happening to this kid.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I like it. It's the guy who did is it Stray Dogs? I know you like that book.
Yeah. I like Stray Dogs.
Yeah, same writer.
Okay, interesting. Destro number 1, I read it. I liked it enough.
Yeah, I don't really know anything about G.I. Joe.
Yeah, I'm not a big G.I. Joe fan. I'm not an 80s kid. What am I? Old as fuck? Did Brian is this Brian protesting? Or was this he's like how dare you? How dare you say you're not
Don't
a G.I.
disrespect
Joe
the
fan?
80s.
Yeah, okay. I don't think Brian's older than me. I think Brian's younger than me. So I don't know.
Maybe
I don't
he just
know whether
loves
this
the
was a
80s.
joke that he's like leaving. Anyway, for those of you who are out there, Brian just left in a huff and puff.
Yeah, he stomped out.
Yeah, he essentially stomped out. Destro, it is one of the G.I. Joe. He says, my phone battery died. It was great talking to both of you tonight. So, okay. So,
Okay, cool.
Brian's done. I'm going to go through this real quick. Destro, it's another one of the new Energon universe stuff that Image and Skybound Comics is doing together. Destro, he's like a war profiteer. That's really when, like, it's an interesting book about a comic book war profiteer. Like if Justin Hammer had a book, but Justin Hammer was a little bit more evil, you know?
Right. Sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah. Sensational She-Hulk number 9 makes me feel like warm and fuzzy inside. Like there's like this romance in it between her and Jack of Hearts. Also, like I'm a big proponent of like tall women, short king dynamics.
Me too, weirdly. Like Big Barda and Mr. Miracle. Like I've been thinking about them recently.
Yeah.
Like I just love them together.
I want to find myself a Big Barda, you know, or a She-Hulk of my own. So
that would be perfect.
Yeah, you know.
Some Futurama snoo.
Yeah, you know, that's my snooze too. Titans number 12. You didn't read Titans, right?
No, not yet. I'm catching up on Titans.
Okay. It was cool. It was kind of a transition issue because basically the premise is that like Raven's been taken over by her dark demon self, and she's been pretending to be good, but then doing things in the background, and so you know, that is what it is. It's leading us into absolute power, I think, because
you know, everything is.
Wolverine Blood Hunt number 2, a good Blood Hunt book. It's Wolverine and this new girl that I've never met before, but she's kind of like religious vampire crossbow hunter kind of girl. I don't know, but like there's a lot of like military vampires, Wolverine fighting them. It's pretty good, and the art is amazing. And then last but not least for this week, Doctor Strange number 12 was really good. This run, Doctor Strange number 16, sorry, the Blood Hunt tie-in, is really good. But this whole run has been really good. The 16 issues so far. If you're looking for a new one to jump on.
Okay.
You know, if you want to binge,
I might do that.
I
like Doctor Strange. I just don't know too much about him.
Yeah.
But what I do know, I like.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, what I do know, I don't like. I'm not a big Doctor Strange fan, but this series makes me interested. Doctor Strange is my least favorite MCU movie.
Wow. Is the comic character based? I mean, like character focused? Because that's really what I am craving for.
It's more relationship driven.
Okay.
So it's not focusing on him per se. There are certain arcs that do, but it's about him and Clea, his wife, him and Wong, him and you know, the goat. There's a ghost basset hound.
Mm.
And he's cool. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I think I might like that, so I might try that out.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's pretty much it. I think that's everything. That's everything you read and I read, right?
I think so. I don't know why in my mind I thought there was something else, but no, I think Wonder Woman, World's Finest, Batman. Yep,
Yeah.
that's the whole shebang.
Yeah. I want to thank you so much for coming on this. Tell me where we can find you. What do you got coming up? Anything you want to plug?
Okay, I am on Insta and TikTok and Twitter. Virgo Blade, that's where you can find me. Currently, I have some things cooking in the oven with some writing projects, but they take a long time to come out. So when they are finally finished and I can take them out the oven, I will let you all know.
Sounds good.
Yep.
If for people out there who are watching and or listening, you're watching us on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show or youtube.com/The Keeg Show, or you're listening to the podcast wherever you get podcasts from, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, SoundCloud. You saw Brian, you heard Brian. If you want to follow Brian, follow him at Captain Comic Rex. That's RECS, like recommendations, on TikTok and Instagram. If you want to follow me personally, you can follow me at This Is Dimithri on like all social media. See what else I'm up to, in my personal life or the things I do outside of this podcast. But if you want to follow us on our podcast, on our whatever, like, comment, subscribe, follow, write a review for our podcast, for Twitch, for YouTube, whatever. If you want to follow us on social media, you can follow us at The Keeg Show on TikTok and Instagram. We're also on Facebook, Threads, Twitter, all that stuff. At The Keeg Show or / The Keeg Show, pretty much wherever on social media. Patreon.com / The Keeg Show if you want to give back to The Keeg. ComicShopLocator.com. Go there to find a comic shop near you. Support your local comic shops. As long as they're a good comic shop, they deserve your support. There are some bad ones out there, so be careful. But comic shops in general, as an industry, your local comic shop needs your support. Also, public libraries. Support your public libraries. They have a lot of comics there for anyone out there who, wants to get into comics but needs to do it on a budget. Local public libraries are key places. That it was key for me growing up. So, there's that.
Same.
This is Comic Talk, where we talk about this week's new comic book releases. We also got The Acolyte tonight, and that is every Tuesday night after episodes of The Acolyte. We got The Keeg Talks, which is like roughly every other weekend. And then we have State of X, which is our X-Men podcast, and that's once a month, just to catch people up with what X-Men has. That's pretty much it. Thank you, Ethan, for coming on the show. Thank you, anybody out there, for watching and or listening. Once again, I am your host, Dimithri Perera, and this has been another episode of Comic Talk for the week of June 20th, 2024. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Peace out. It's been real.
Super fast, gotta beat the boss and get, cause it's the king, and we got geek news.